Hey everyone, welcome back to the Colour Cave with me, Jem. Since the last video, I have completed the other half of the page as I said I was going to do. I have done my homework. And what we'd like to do today is I'm going to tackle some of the leaves and the vines round about this central part with the story in it. And I'm going to do what I did last time. I'm only going to do this half of the page simply because I don't really want the repetition and I'm not a huge fan of speeding the video up. So you'll get the general idea from me doing this half, and I shall complete this half in my own time. So I'm only going to be working with 3 pencils today, and those pencils are light green PC 920, true green PC 910 and parrot green PC 1006. So basically I have a light, a medium and a dark tone, and I'm just going to use that to my advantage, but I didn't want to introduce too many colours because it is quite a bright page already. So as before, I am going to start over on the right hand side. The reason that I am starting on the right hand side is because I am left-handed. Naturally, if you are following along and you are right-handed, you might want to start on this side and work over. And I've just got a little bit of scrap paper that I've been kind of doodling on, and I'm just going to pop that under my hand to stop me smudging what's already there. Prismacolors are pretty bad for it, and it is very warm today. If you can believe it, in Scotland it's actually quite hot. I don't want any sort of sweaty, squishy flowers going on this side of the page. I'm going to start with my lightest pencil, which is the light green. And I am just going to start working my way round some of these leaves. And all I'm doing is going to put down a really light first coat, or first layer if you like, on some of these. Because when it comes to using my mid-tone and my darker tone, I'm going to use those to my advantage and sort of manipulate a little bit of light and shade in there as well. I am deliberately leaving it, these leaves with the sort of fancy schmancy bit in the middle, I'm leaving them, leafing them, haha. Oh yes, okay, the humour's bad today. I'm leaving them out because I think I'm going to do them a different colour. Maybe pick a colour from somewhere else in the picture that I've already used, which will just tie it in and make it nice and cohesive. So I'll just do this little group of leaves down at the bottom here. This little clump if you like. And then I'll talk a little bit about how I'm going to use the other colours. So that gives me a nice little base layer to start with. I'm not taking too much care here because it is just a first layer. I'm not overly worried about what's, how tidy it is or anything like that. It's just, let's get started and get some colour down on the paper. There we go, so I've just got a light coat on this little section here. I do find it easier to work section by section where there is a lot of the similar elements in the same picture. It seems to work better for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my darkest colour, which might go against what you think I would do, and that's parrot green, PC 1006. And I'm just thinking about where the overlaps are similar to what I did with some of these petals and the purple flowers up here. So for example, in behind this flower here, and I'm going to use really heavy pressure in beside the petal. I want really vibrant colours here, and I'm just going to gradually release that pressure as I move further away from the petals. There we go, that's a bit better. You can see better now. You can see I have quite a few marks on my paper here, and it's just really grubbiness from other pages, so I'm just going to take my Derwent eraser and just see if I can lift some of that. I probably won't be able to get a lot of it off if I'm honest, but maybe make it look a bit tidier. It's marginally better. I don't think I'm going to get rid of that mark there. That's a bit of an improvement. Okay, so you can see what I've done there. I'm going to have to turn this round. I'm at a really awkward angle today. I'm just going to do the same with this leaf at the bottom. Really heavy pressure, and then gradually let that out, let up on the pressure. This side here where it's just a tiny little space, I'm just going to go for it and fill that in make it really dark, just so that it stands out. I'm just really thinking about the folds of the leaves, you know, where these bits are curling round. The same in there. There we go, that looks pretty good. Slide this up a little bit and do this one here as well, and the same thing. And there we go, that looks pretty good. Now I think with these leaves, I'm just going to do more of a simple gradient. I am going to try and squeeze 3 colours in. I'm going to be ambitious. So I'll have that really dark down at the base of the leaf, but only take it up a tiny, tiny little bit so that I have room to blend the other 2 colours, and I'll do the same with this one up here as well. There we go. Now with this one down here, this is slightly different because it has this sort of turned over area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a dark line down along where that crease is, as if it's curling over. It's really difficult to show you when I'm zoomed in this far, and it's curling over this way. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And just feather the edges of it very, very slightly. I probably won't get 3 colours in there, to be honest, but what I will do is I'm taking my mid colour, which is the back to the true green, excuse me, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blend that in right now, right up to the other edge. Look how vibrant that is. That is lovely. Lovely colours. And then what I'll do is I'll use the palest colour again. Now bearing in mind it is only a very light layer that I've got on these sections. And this is the back to the light green. And I'm just going to heavy pressure at each of the corners, and I'm going to leave that middle section quite pale, like a wee highlight. And that'll just pick up nicely. So that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that leaf. I'll go back to these smaller ones again, and I'm just going to start blending in my mid-tone, and I'm taking that to about 2/3 of the way up, give or take. I'm not going to be too fussy. And then back to the light green just to fill in the top. And I can go away and do other leaves and come back, and if I don't think that I'm happy with the way the colour's sitting, then I can always add bits in, because I haven't gone really heavy and burnished the paper, so the paper will still take more pencil without any issues. That is one of the advantages of learning to colour with a slightly lighter hand. Okay, so I'm just going to look at these on a case-by-case basis. I really just use my judgment to decide what needs to be darker and what needs to be lighter. In the top of this bluebell here, I think I'm going to have the same as I've done over here, and have this really dark in beside the top of the flower, and then just gradually lighten up on my pressure. With this one here, I'm using my mid-green, which is the true green. And again, heavy pressure at the corners. I have enough room to do this, and then take my light green and blend it a little bit and still leave that highlight, which is essentially the one layer of that original colour in the middle. And just by using that mid-green along the edges, it's just giving it a bit more sort of saturation, a bit more depth. It's making it look a bit more exciting. With this smaller area, I'm just going to go back in with the light green, so I'm actually skipping the mid colour, and I'm just going to blend in some of that lightest green, because again it's really too fiddly an area and you're not going to notice it all that much. With these little parts that are poking in, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my darkest colour, so I'm going to just put a little squidge of the parrot green in, but with a really heavy pressure. And then all I'm going to do is go over the top of it with the lightest green, and just blend it in a bit. And I'm more than happy with that. Not just because it's a fiddly area, but because there are so many of them over the course of the picture. You could spend ages going over bits and bobs like that, and really sort of deliberating over it, but I don't think it's worth it. I've got the true green here, middle colour, and I'm just going to lighten that up as I go. I'm doing the same thing every single time. I'm starting off with heavy pressure and then just pulling up on the pressure as I get to the end of where I want it to be. God, I'm making some mess with these pencils today. So mid-green on this one as well, I think. Now I've got loads of space in this one, so I'm going to take a bit more time and get a nice smooth blend there. I've got loads of room to do it, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And just leave the very tip. That very, very lightest tickle of green, which was the original first layer that we did. Again, this little bit in here, I'm going to do what I did over here. I'm just going to skip out the mid colour and just blend it in because it's a smaller area. And the same here too. I'll do these little, I'd call these jaggy bits. Something's jaggy, it's sharp, it's spiny, or, you know, another Scottish word. And just blend it over with my lightest green. So I think it would be nice to put a different colour in the middle because it's really going to make these little bits pop. But I'll have a think about that and decide what colour I'm going to use at a slightly later stage. I'm just thinking about these sort of nubbin parts here as well, and I think they're worth making a feature of. So using the parrot green, I'm just going to follow that edge, the outside edge of the nubbin with a heavy pressure. Just follow that curve round like so, and then just put a little feathered edge on it, so little light circles. And then what that'll let me do is I can blend in the other green with it without any hassle. Because this is tucked in behind, I'm going to use my dark green there. So to me now, this section here is screaming out for the middle colour rather than the lightest colour. And this is, it doesn't seem very scientific, and it's not. But it's just the way that I tend to do things by eye, and I say all the time in my videos about using your eye, and that is exactly what I'm doing. And what my heart's telling me to do now is to use the lightest green in this sort of long thin section before it meets down in a V. And again, I'm just leaving the ends, wherever it is I stop the colour, I'm leaving it light so that I can blend into the next colour as I go. So I'm going to go back to my mid-green here. And dark green in at the bottom here. That's the reason that I'm doing that is so that it mirrors the leaf on the opposite side. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Makes sense in my head. So again, starting off really heavy and then just letting up on the pressure as I come up each side of the leaf. And use my mid-green to blend that in. Now it's entirely up to you which way you do this and how, you may have a much more structured way of using the three colours. You might want it very uniform. If there's anything I've learned about being a farmer and being outside, is that although you can find many patterns in nature, most things are rarely uniform. So as long as you're sticking to the same sort of principle, anything that you put down is going to come out quite nicely, I'll be honest. So now I've got this section from here to here, and this is the mid-green and this is the dark green. So I'm just going to stick with the mid-green and blend it in at this side. Now that I'm using a sort of medium pressure here. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat today. And there we go. Now what I think I might do just for a bit of definition is get a really, really sharp point on my parrot green, as sharp as I can get it anyway. And I'm just going to run one line, and I'm going to have to turn this round, guys, I'm really sorry. Right, make you all seasick. And I'm just going to run a dark line from my nubbin area right along the top edge of that particular vine down to this leaf here. I just kind of want to give it some dimension. It's one of those little subtle things that it doesn't make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things, but when you do it repeatedly over again, you know, there's lots of areas that are very similar in this picture, it just helps give it that little bit of extra oomph, which is what we want in this, because we want to keep it bright and cheery. And this curled bit here, I'm just going to carry on with my true green. I'm going to lighten it up to about there. And then I'm going to take my light green, bring it all up and round. And I'll do the same thing again here in the interests of continuity. Just on this little curved part, I'm just going to run this parrot green round like so. There we go. Now my leaves are starting to take shape a bit. Just pop a little bit of the light green there. Okay, so this is the last leaf in this little section, so dark at the bottom. Going into my mid green colour. And then my lightest green, and again just leaving a tiny, tiny wee bit at the top. There we go, and then I'll just do my jiggy bits, which is the parrot green with a tiny little blob at the bottom. And then go over it with the light green, just blend it in. So we're back to another leaf here where the vine goes in behind. So same principle again there. I'll just blend these together. So I'm just using a medium pressure here in my middle green colour. And I'm just going to take that all the way along to here. And round this curve just a little bit. And I'll add my light green in here. There we go, where's my brush gone? Alright, so that little section's starting to take shape now. Just turn this back round the right way. There we go, that looks pretty nice. Again, logic dictates to me that I'm going to carry on down here, and that's the, you know, one section's nearly dealt with sort of thing. And again, it's up to you. Obviously I don't expect people to go in the exact order that I'm doing in, because I'm aware that my order is not particularly logical. But I think because it's such a sort of flowing pattern, that might be part of it, and why I feel the need to be so liberal. Is that even the right word? Yeah, I'll make it the right word. I'll do my nubbin. Every time I say the word nubbin, it makes me think of Friends and Chandler Bing with his third nipple, because he called it his nubbin. I miss Friends, it was good. It makes me feel really old when I find out how long it's actually been off the air. It makes me feel old. I know I'm not old, but it makes me feel old. Because it doesn't feel like that long ago that I used to sit cross-legged and watch it in my pyjamas. And I could spend whole evenings watching Friends quite happily. That was a sitcom that they couldn't have ended it better. I thought the last episode was amazing. I'm not really an animated person when it comes to watching TV programmes and stuff, but I was literally screaming at the TV, "Did she get off the plane?" If you have no idea what I'm talking about, where have you been for the last 30 years? Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant ending to a TV series, especially one that had run on for so long. So again, I'm going to try and squeeze the three pencil blend in here, which I should be able to do without too much hassle. Get my latest screen. That's a bit patchy. There we go. Fill in this little bit round here as well. And then back in with this dark pencil just on the curve, just to give it a little bit of va-va-voom, as it were. If I do this little section here, then that is that vine, that particular vine, that singular vine, more or less done. I think I'm going to do the leaves that are attached to these flowers the same as well, because I did notice that there is this ring that runs past all the flowers. You can just see a little bit of it in there. And I think I'm going to keep the same colours as well. I'm not going to make that a different colour. So it follows that I'll just keep the leaves on the flowers the same as well. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to take the darkest green higher up and not use the light green, just to give them a bit of differentiation between the other leaves. Although I'm sticking with the same colour scheme, I'm just excluding that lightest green, just so that there is a difference and we don't end up all samey. And I'm just going to carry on doing this. So you're getting the idea now of where I'm going with this. And say it's entirely up to yourself. I fully encourage you to explore your own variations in what I'm doing here. Because I mean, this is just sort of grown legs. Originally I had no plans for this to be a page for people to follow along, but there seems to be quite a lot of people that do want to follow along. It was more just a sort of rambly colour and chat kind of idea, but I'm quite happy to do this and, you know, follow through and do the whole page. If that's what you guys want, that's absolutely fine by me, as long as you're happy to put up with my incessant ramblings on subjects that may or may not interest you. I'm trying my hardest not to talk about farming too much, because it's one of those things, if you have no interest in it, then it must be terribly, terribly boring to listen to me, and maybe you turn the sound off, I don't know. But unfortunately, whether I like it or not, it is a huge part of my life, and it kind of dominates my you know, my day-to-day life, so it's inevitable that farming chat will be in there somewhere. At the weekend there, I was at my local agricultural show, which is actually one of the biggest in the area, and it just happens to be down the road from our farm, so it's one of those ones where you can't not go. And an agricultural show, contrary to popular belief, the people do go and show their livestock the same way as you would show dogs or, you know, that kind of thing. That element is still very much there, but it's turned into so much more than that. And the show itself is actually split into two sections now, and they have what we affectionately call the towny side, and that does not mean in a derogatory sense at all, but they've basically split the show in two. And on the towny side is all of the food stands, you know, where you can buy jams and cheeses and meat and all sorts of yummy, you know, straight from the farm kind of stuff. And there's loads of craft stalls and cookery demonstrations, and there's kids fun fair rides and that kind of thing. And on the other side of the show is the farmer side, and it's where all the tractor dealerships are and where all the livestock showing goes on and that kind of thing. And it's set up really well. And needless to say, we always end up on the farmer side for most of the day for obvious reasons. We don't show cattle or sheep, but we have a lot of contacts, and all the companies that we use, like our local farm stores company, our feed companies, all have stands at these shows, and it's basically an excuse for the customers, i.e. us, to go and have a natter with people and get some free beer, because they always have beer. So I spent a lot of the day drinking beer and sitting in the sunshine and generally just relaxing and enjoying myself. A couple of my friends, well actually my best friend who stays not too far away from me, and her boyfriend came through, and they are not farmers, so it was a nice experience for them as well to come and see, you know, a little bit of what we're all about. Because normally if we're going out on a social occasion with them, we tend to go to them because they live in a city, and obviously there's a hell of a lot more to do in a city than there is where we stay. So we normally go and visit them and go out to a bar or go out for dinner or something like that. So it's nice that it was the opposite way around for a change, and I think they both learned something whether they wanted to or not. But it was very sunny and I drank a lot more beer than I would normally, so I had a little bit of a sore head the next day. There we go. So you can see that section that I've just done, and I'm pretty pleased with that. It's turning out quite nice, and you can see when it's zoomed out like that, that the sort of slightly random way that I've blended some of the sections, it has quite a nice overall effect. That's what I was going for, that's what I wanted. So I'm quite happy to continue on the way that I'm doing. So I'm going to do this half of this sort of heart shape next, I think. And because I did say I'm only going to do one half of the paper, so if I do this little section, that's this bottom corner done, and we can move up round the side. Again, I'll probably go to about here, so that would be like a quarter of the page, and then we'll tackle the inside of these leaves. We'll decide what we're doing with them, and we'll see how that goes, I think. Does that sound good to you guys? Of course it does. So good fun was had by all at the weekend. It's kind of it's a bit of a milestone for my partner and I, because it's the first day of the year where we have time to socialise together now that lambing is finally finished, because calving and lambing come in quick succession, and it's just a time of year that's quite stressful, and it's a lot of hard work. So really we know when the show comes round that it's time to start sort of winding down a little bit, and things are a bit quieter for a month or two, so we always really look forward to it. And for my partner, that was his first day off since before Christmas. He has worked every single day without fail since about the 20th of December. So it's really nice for him as well to let his hair down. It's quite funny though, because he doesn't normally drink a lot of alcohol, and obviously when we go to the show we do drink a lot of alcohol, and it doesn't take him long to get drunk, and he's very funny when he's drunk. Very, very funny. He's like a sort of giggly schoolboy, so I always quite enjoy watching him getting squiffy really quickly and just laughing at him a little bit. But he never takes it too far. He's a very good-natured drunk, so he's not any hassle. So a good time was had by all. That's the main thing. And we cannot fault the weather just now. I'm sure I've explained to you all before that in Scotland we have a very changeable climate, and during the summer months we'll probably get, in a good summer we'll get temperatures between 18 and maybe 22 degrees Celsius. That's a warm summer for us, and that's normally not in until nearer the end of the summer, maybe sort of August, September time. And this year so far we have been sitting in the low 20s for about 2 weeks now, so we're all really enjoying the weather. And if you go anywhere, in any sort of public place in Scotland, you just see a lot of really sunburned people. we're so not used to this, so much sun, and it's almost like a desperation. The minute there's a hint of sunshine and it's warm, half the population of Scotland have virtually no clothes on, and it's like, quick, grab all the sunlight when you can. It's quite funny, but unfortunately people aren't responsible, and they don't bother to put sun cream on because they think, oh, it's Scotland, and they end up really, really burnt. I say to people quite often, bearing in mind that I work outside and I also spend quite a lot of time outside between my dogs and running, and I am quite weather beaten, but I also have Italian lineage, so I do take a good tan. I still have to wear sun cream. So if I have to wear sun cream, then the vast majority of the population of Scotland really should have sun cream on. I've got a thing about that. I don't like getting burnt. I don't know why anybody would like getting burnt, but some of the people that I've seen kicking about, and I just think, oh, you idiots, what are you doing? But hey, they're all big boys and girls. They can look after themselves. It's not down to me. I think just now we're just like, what's this big yellow fiery ball in the sky? What does one of them do? After our horrendous bout of snow. I did actually think at one point that the winter was never going to end. I did have that fear for a little while. But we're completely the opposite end of the spectrum now. I think maybe the weather's just trying to make up for giving us such a hard time over the winter, because it is, especially in May, it is very, very out of character for us to have temperatures this warm. In a bad summer, we'll usually hover about between 15 and 18. Maybe get an odd day of sunshine, but it's usually quite cloudy. The last couple of years it's been very close, it's been very muggy, so it's been overcast but warm, and it's that sort of suffocating heat that's just not pleasant, and you end up kind of sticky. So that's not been much fun. So I'm hoping this year we're actually going to get a decent summer. That would be real nice. Here's hoping. It makes me laugh though, because I have you know, that sort of olive skin. I mean, in the winter I am so pale, but in the summer I do take a really good tan, and it only takes me a day or two really of, you know, of good sunshine, and I'll maybe bump into a friend or, you know, someone I haven't seen for a little while, and they'll be, oh, have you been on holiday? And I'm like, no, I just stood outside for 10 minutes. The joys of working outside. Everyone always says, oh, you're so brown. I'm like, well, I don't do it on purpose. I'm not, you know, I'm not a sunbather. It's just because I spend a lot of time outside that that and a combination of the Italian genes, that'll do it for me. I'm not complaining though. One of my ladies, I go to Weight Watchers, and one of the ladies in my Weight Watchers group hadn't seen me for a couple of weeks, and I went in the other night and she said, you look disgustingly healthy. Oh, and that is Mr. Jem back in his tractor. I'm sure you heard that. Yes, so my friend at Weight Watchers says, you're disgustingly healthy looking. How dare you be that brown? I'm like, I'm terribly sorry. I'll just do this little middle one. I'm really liking these greens together. I just sort of picked them out not at random, but I didn't take any great pains over choosing these particular colours, but I like how they go together. That's good. It's quite nice. With this leaf here, I'm just going to the dark green, and I'm bringing that almost halfway up, just with a lighter tip, and then the mid green, the same as I did with the other one down there. So it's just to give a bit of differentiation without straying away from the colour scheme. And this little vine ring that's running through the purple flowers, I'm just using the parrot green, the darkest green, because again, it's such a small space, there's no point in fiddling about with it really. I know this is off camera, but I'm just doing a little bit that's further up as well. We've got quite a bit of curliness going on with this one. So that's a cue for me to get out my parrot green. Nice and heavy so that that colour really pops out. That's one of the really nice things about Prismacolor pencils. The vibrancy of the colour is pretty darn good, and it does not take a lot of effort to get really vibrant colours, whereas with your polychromos you're going to have to work at it. You know, with harder pencils is what I mean. Not just polychromos, obviously there are other harder core pen. Well, everything's a harder core pencil than a Prismacolor, but you know, you guys know what I mean. They just have to take a bit more time over it, whereas with these pencils you can just go to town straight away. A lot of people that have problems with rheumatoid arthritis and that kind of thing who like to colour, and they say that Prismacolor pencils has been an absolute godsend for them, just because you don't have to put a lot of pressure down and you don't need to have an iron grip, you know, to get any sort of pigment down in the paper, which means they are free to colour for extended periods of time without having any, well, without having too much discomfort or pain, which I think is really nice, and it's something that I had never really given much thought to be honest. Just being at an age where, and being healthy enough that I'm not affected by things like that, so that's it's kind of makes you think. That, talking about people with rheumatoid arthritis, actually kind of makes me want to tell the story about how I started colouring, which is something that I haven't shared before. And it's not particularly interesting, it's just relevant with what we've been talking about. But a few years ago, my grandmother, who is incredibly good for her age, you know, she's she would easily pass for a lady of a lot younger years than what she is. She's in her 90s and she still stays by herself. She's very independent and she stays in a flat, so she walks up and down stairs and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, she's always looking for things to occupy herself, and one of her relatives, a sort of distant relative, bought her a colouring book and some pencils for her birthday. And my gran was quite excited about this and she was desperate to give it a go, but she found that the colouring book that had been bought for her, it was too intricate, and even with her glasses on, the combination of leaning over and, you know, having her glasses on, she was finding it really, really hard work. And although she did start to colour, it was just too much for her and she decided that she didn't like it. Now, knowing that I like to draw on one thing and another, she asked me if I wanted this colouring book. And before that, I'm going to be truthful, I had always sort of poo-pooed the adult colouring thing as just a sort of, you know, a trend, a fad that would pass. And I was like, you know, well, yeah, and I didn't want to insult her or anything. And I thought, do you know what? I'll just take the colouring book. I don't have to use it. I can give it to someone that's really into colouring. And I had nothing against it at that point. I just, you know, being someone who draws and, you know, paints and things anyway, I didn't think I would really get anything out of it. So she gave me this book and the pencils, and it turned out to be Enchanted Forest by Johanna Basford. Now, up until that point, other than some of the colouring books that you see in the supermarkets, which some are great, some are not so great, I hadn't seen an adult colouring book, and I flicked through it and I was absolutely blown away by the artwork in it and how intricate and beautiful it was. And that's when I started to change my tune about adult colouring, and I thought, yeah, do you know what, I might not get into it, but I'm going to give it a go because this looks like it might be fun. So I started, and again, already having sets of coloured pencils, I just thought, yeah, okay, let's go, let's try this. So for the first year or so, I kind of dipped in and out, but to begin with, I actually found it really stressful. I just had this desperation to hurry, and that's obviously not what adult colouring is all about. And I didn't like it, I really didn't like it to begin with, but again, probably starting with Enchanted Forest might not have been the cleverest move had it been thought out, but it's just the fact that this book had sort of landed in my lap. And I put the book away and I didn't touch it for the best part of a year, I would say, and I'd only coloured 1 or 2 pictures in it, but I had started at the beginning. And it was only when my dog became ill, and she was very, very ill, and I was a little bit stressed out. I was very anxious, and I found myself getting drawn, you know, back towards this book again, and I started colouring in it, and I found it was one of the few things that helped take my mind off what was going on with my dog, and I could just sort of lose myself in it. And that's really when I started colouring, and that carried on, and my dog got sicker and sicker, and nobody seemed to be able to help her, and we had her put to sleep. So being sad, which was, we had her put to sleep the day after Boxing Day, just there, the Christmas past. And I kept colouring because it helped me through that as well. And unfortunately, I lost one of my other grandmother, not the grandmother I was just talking about, my other grandmother, my Italian grandmother. I lost her a week after that as well. And my colouring really sort of went into turbocharge mode, and I didn't want to draw, strangely. I just wanted to colour because it was complicated enough to keep me occupied, but it's something I didn't have to give a lot of thought to at the same time. And that might sound a bit crazy, but I'm hoping that some of you guys maybe understand that. And that is really how that period of my dog being unwell, which started probably about July time, it might even have been a bit earlier than that. So basically for the second half of last year, I'd coloured before that, but I hadn't done it in any great capacity. It was just, you know, a thing I did every now and then, but I really sort of went into overdrive last summer, and that's how I kind of ended up doing as much as I've done. So I find it as a great coping mechanism, but I think it's one of the reasons why I'm determined that it's not going to be a stressor in my life. You know, I've talked already a couple of times about how people get stressed out about backgrounds or making a mistake, and I'm determined that that's not it for me, because I found it to be a very positive thing, and I won't let it get to that stage. Obviously, I mean, I'm over the losing my dog. Well, I don't know if I'm over losing my dog because, well, yeah, she's, I can't explain it to people. If you've had a pet, you know what it's like to lose a friend, but when it is a working dog, speaking of dogs, here's wee flappy ears, hello. When you lose a dog that is not only your best friend, but she's a working dog, it's a different bond you've got with that animal, and we were very, very close, Mist and I, and it's different, and you grieve differently. I have lost pets before, but that's the first working dog that I've lost, and I think there'll always be a big empty space, and I don't think anybody's ever going to fill it. But certainly, I mean, I can talk about her now and not get upset about it, but it doesn't mean I don't miss her. The worst of it is we're going to have to get another dog to replace her. We've decided to wait until after the wedding, and the thought of replacing a dog horrifies me, just even saying the phrase replace. But unfortunately, in our line of work and in our lifestyle, it has to be done. And I'm kind of dreading it because I don't want to replace her. But by the same token, you know, maybe I'll find a new best friend. It'll be a different kind of best friend, but we'll wait and see. Anyway, that's enough of that jolly subject. Sorry guys, this is supposed to be like cheery and good fun. Oh wow. So there you go, that's looking quite pretty. Now we just have to decide what colour we want the inside parts of these leaves to be, and I think we'll maybe decide on a colour for the inside of these flowers too, and then we'll really see the picture starting to come together. Okie dokie, so I have made some colour choices for our inside of our leaves and the inside of these flowers, and I just wanted to explain why I've picked the colours that I've picked. So first of all I have Dahlia Purple, which was one of the purples that we used for this ring of flowers here. So there's a twofold reason for picking this colour. First of all, it's already part of our colour scheme, which helps to keep it cohesive. But also, if I show you the colour wheel that I have here, the colour of these flowers, we've gone from red through orange to yellow. Now, to keep that sort of spectral gradient, as it were, I wanted to use a colour either side. Now, if I go this way on the colour wheel, I'm into greens, and by the time we're finished, we're going to have quite a lot of green already. So I've decided to go the other way and head round this way. And you can see in this section of the colour wheel, there are some sort of pinky reds. But I've gone over one into purple because we already have this here. So that's the thinking behind that. And because it's such a small section, it's not going to be, you know, overpowering in any way. So that's pretty good. For the inside of my leaves, I have picked blush pink, which is PC928. And I also have here process red, which is PC994. And again, the reasoning for picking that is I didn't want to reincorporate any of the colours that are already here, because the colours that we've already used, there is quite a lot of it on the picture already. So again, looking at the colour wheel, if you look into the green section up here and even into the bluey greens, which I think you could maybe class the parrot green in that sort of, you know, in between these two sections. If you go straight down on a complementary colour scheme, then you are into pinks. So I'm kind of like talking about that as a pairing. So the colour scheme is really just the leaves. So green and pink go well together. The pink's also going to complement. The pink is also going to complement the purple, which is going to work well. And I think that the pink is really going to pop next to this green on the inside of these leaves. So that's the logic behind it. So we're just going to go down and work back in this little quarter section and show you how I'm actually going to use the pencils. And then after that, we'll move up to this top quarter and get that part done. And that will be us for this video. So very quickly, I'm just going to start with the Dahlia Purple. As I say, PC1009, and I'm not going to start fussing about a lot with this. I really just wanted to give that middle some colour. So as we did with our, helps if it's in shot, Jem, as we did with our little yellow centres here, I'm going to do the same thing with this purple pencil, and I'm just going to go in a semicircle round the outside, heavy pressure against the outside, and then just gradually feather that in to create a sort of half moon shape like this, and leave a fair bit of white showing in the middle, and just build up the colour round that outside edge. I am going in this direction to match the direction that I did with the yellow ones. Because they're not that obvious though, you may want to go in the other direction, you may want to come round this side. The reason I've gone this way is, again, because I'm left-handed. I haven't established a direct light source, so it's not one of those things where I am particularly bothered which way round it is, but I've just gone that way because I find it easiest. So I'll do these ones here. Helps if it's in shot again, sorry guys. You think I'd have got the hang of this by now. A little one there. There we go. Okay, so that's us done with the purple for now. Now into my blush pink and my process red. And I'm just going to start working away in these leaves. So going on the principle that we used for the vines and the outside of the leaves, I'm really just thinking about where the darker parts should be. And I think that we will have the darker colour round the outside, again to match with my jaggy bits. So I'm just going to put quite a heavy line down the side of these leaves, just basically outlining that centre section. And then with a sort of small lighter hand and a circling motion, just feather the edge of that. And that's just so that we can blend in the blush pink with relative ease. Now this is quite fiddly, so I probably will go back and touch up. You know, I'll come back to the process red and touch up. I'll see how I go with the paler colour. So again, circular motions and just blend that in slightly. Working my way around. make sure I'm getting good coverage there. And I have used a sort of medium pressure because again, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back over that. Okay, I'm not happy with the amount of the paler colour that there is. So I'm going to go back over what I've already done, but I'm going to pull the processed red in a lot further so that there's more of that showing than the paler blush pink. Particularly up at this top edge. That's better. I'm happier with that already. Okay, and then I'll just blend this in a little bit better with the blush pink again. There, much happier with that now, much happier. Where's my brush? I missed a little bit there. Yep, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. With this leaf that's curled over, again, the same principle as we did with the vines and things. I'm going to have a dark edge right here because it's the top of the leaf is curled over. So I'm going to make that a little bit darker and then just do the same as I had before. Come round here. Feather that in and bring it quite far in again. That's the nice thing about doing, you know, when you've got quite a lot of leaves like this, you'd, as I was talking about before about uniformity, it's not a great disaster if they're not, you know, absolutely identical, because realistically in real life they wouldn't be either. But you can play about with it and adjust it accordingly to, you know, what suits you. As I say, no one's going to turn around and say, oh, you know, that doesn't match that leaf. It's about giving an overall impression. Okay, so I'll move on to this little one at the bottom now. And this one kind of follows the same principle as we did with this one in here. I'm not going to take it all the way round, and again, that's just me using my artistic license. I just feel like it would be too much of the darker colour. And not enough of the blush pink showing through. So we'll go with that. Go back in here with my darker one again. Now I'm not liking, similarly to the problem that I had with these flowers, I'm not liking the way that the colour's sitting on the page, so I'm going to use my blender pencil just to smooth out the sections that I've done. And again, I'm starting in the darker section to allow me to pull more of that processed red into the middle and just really leave a hint of the blush pink, because I wanted to keep the, you know, keep the vibrancy going like we discussed. That's a bit better. You may be the kind of person that likes to use your blender pencil over the whole picture, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just it's down to personal preference, I think. Yeah, I'm a bit happy with that. That looks a lot smoother. Just do the same with this wee one down the bottom. Like so. These ones are a bit more straightforward. So the other exciting thing that has happened to me this week is that I came home from work one day and there were a massive bunch of envelopes that had been posted through the door by our postman. Nothing unusual in that. And there was this envelope and it was handwritten. The address was handwritten and it wasn't writing that I recognised. And I thought, oh, what's this with my name on it? So I opened up the envelope and inside was a copy of a literary magazine, and this is one of these sort of subscription magazines that publishes short stories. And when I opened it up, there was my name on the front cover. Now, one of my other hobbies that I've always had since I was very, very young is I like to write, and I write fiction. And it's something that I've never wanted to pursue as a career. I've always kept it as a hobby, but I have had a few bits and pieces published. Not for some time now, not for a year or two now, but I had submitted that story to 3 or 4 publishers and had quite a lot of rejections because it's a very niche subject that I've written on. And lo and behold, I didn't have any sort of email or confirmation or anything to tell me that they were going to publish it. And they just sent me a copy through the post. So I was absolutely thrilled. The payment on it is very, very small. I mean, it's just, like a token gesture. It's not a great big publication or anything like that. But I was really pleased that I've had another one of my short stories published. Especially when it comes out the blue like that and you're not expecting it. It's a really, really nice feeling. So that was a bit of excitement for me as well, a nice sense of accomplishment. With that particular story, after it had so many rejections, I reworked it, and for some reason, I mean, I have got like a whole bunch of short stories that are shelved basically, and I've just left them. I've not, sort of pursued them in terms of trying to get them published. But for some reason with that one story, I just got quite attached to it. And I always said, and I said to my friend at one point who helps me out, she does a bit of beta reading for me. And I said to her, I said, I don't know what it is about this story, but it's meant to have a home. And for whatever reason, my gut was telling me, I persevered with that story. And I'm really glad that I did now because it has a home. And I wasn't particularly confident that it would ever get published. As I say, it's quite a niche subject matter. It falls into the category of what's known as a weird western. So it's a story set in the Wild West, but it has a sort of supernatural twist to it. So you can imagine it's not exactly mainstream reading. But I think what it was actually the fact that I really liked the main character, or one of the main characters. I was quite attached to him, and maybe that's why I felt the need to sort of soldier on and try and find a place for him. So I'm really, really pleased with that. So that was a nice thing to come home to. It's always nice when you get stories published. It makes you feel good. I don't think I'm ever going to make my millions from writing. I'm writing a novel, but I'm kind of doing it for my own accomplishment. I never expect it to get published. It's so difficult, especially nowadays, to get traditionally published. It's very, very competitive, and a lot of people are using self-publishing platforms such as Amazon to get their stuff out there because the publishing houses are becoming more and more picky, purely due to costs involved and the time that's involved. So I'm under no illusions that my writing's probably not good enough to be traditionally published, but at least someone somewhere thinks something of it and is taking the time to read it, and more to the point, thinks that my writing's good enough for to share it with other people. So that's always nice. Yeah, so my novel is it's a fantasy novel. It's a traditional magic and people with powers and spells and things. But I've been working away at it. I'm about a third of the way through, and I've been working away at it just on and off. Again, it's one of those things, because it's a hobby, I just go to it when I'm ready. I do write maybe 2 or 3 times a week. It's more time sensitive. I'd rather sit down for maybe 2 hours and have a really good go at it than do snatches of 20 minutes here and there, because once you get into a train of thought, you kind of get into a rhythm. I suppose it's a bit like drawing or colouring as well. So that's always sort of chuntering away in the background. But it's given me many sleepless nights trying to figure out, what happens if I do this? If I make him do that, what's going to happen there? That's going to affect that. And it becomes this big sort of tangled web. So it can kind of take over a little bit. And strangely, when I was dealing with my bereavements at the start of the year, one of the things, I've just realised I've missed a little bit of green on these jaggy bits. At the start of the year, when I was dealing with the death of my nana and my lovely dog Mist, I actually couldn't write. It was like a mental block. I tried repeatedly and I just couldn't I just couldn't, you know, I would sit for 20 minutes in front of a keyboard and maybe a sentence would come out. And when I did eventually manage to write something, when I read it back over, I spat out like maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs in the space of an hour, and when I read it back it was just a load of rubbish. It really was. So I've kind of been struggling with that a little bit with my writing, but it's getting a bit easier now as time goes on. Time is a great healer, as they say, and I fully agree with that statement. And I just found that colouring was a much better outlet, and I seemed to just to get a bit more done. And it wasn't my intention to get things done, but just the state of mind that I was in. I always need some sort of creative outlet in my life. I find it extremely sort of de-stressing, and you know, finding that time for yourself. So it kind of switched over from writing to colouring for a period of time there, but we're kind of getting back to normal now, which is always good. Okay, these are coming along quite nicely now. These leaves. And once again, I am quite happy with my colour choices. There have been several occasions where I have picked colours out and then been a bit disappointed with the way that the pages turned out, and then wished that I hadn't picked them. But I'm really quite pleased with this, and I feel that my going for the pink was a good idea against the green, because it's just popping nicely, and that's what we want. Make it look really nice. Okay. Just make sure that the process red's got a nice bit of depth to it. And again, just in with my blender pencil. It's getting a little bit weeny. It's not quite time for a pencil extender, but I don't think we'll be far off it. So I'm trying to push on with these videos. Obviously there is a level of planning involved when you're putting out 2 YouTube videos a week, but I am trying to film quite a few in advance over the next week, because next week I am away, and I'm away for almost a week. I have not final preparations, but I have quite a lot of things to organise for my wedding, and where we're getting married is about a 3-hour drive from where we live, and I have to go down and sort out some paperwork and some legal stuff. So this week I am desperately trying to film my videos in advance, basically so that my subscribers, hello subscribers, aren't left, you know, for maybe two or three Mondays and Fridays without any videos, because as we all know, one of the key things to a successful channel on YouTube is consistency. So I am going to do my best over the next week to make sure that I have a bank of videos available to you, so that when I'm away you've still got something to look forward to on a Monday, and you still have a video for the weekend as well. So if anything at any point over the next couple of months, because you know I'm going to be busy with the wedding and things like that, if at any point I am struggling and I'm not able to put out a video, I will always let you guys know, and I'll just put up a quick 5-minute video to let you know, so that you know that I've not disappeared and I've not run away or anything like that. But I do think it's important. Obviously I very much appreciate my subscribers and people who come and view my channel and leave me nice comments, and all the comments have been really nice. And I would like that to continue, so I think it's only fair that you guys know what's going on, but also as well, just so that you can appreciate that I don't have as much time as I would like to, you know, to keep sort of spitting things out, as it were. And I think that's the same for a lot of YouTubers, unless people do it full time for a living. That's a little bit different, but you know, sometimes other things have to take priority, and getting married, I would say, is probably one of them. Don't ever tell Mr. Jem I said that though. Okay, so that's the little bottom section finished. So I'm just going to go up to, I'm just going to go up this side now. I'll get a couple of these little ones in the middle, and then I'll shunt up the way, and we'll do this top corner. So I'm just going to do the inside of these flowers first, just because it's nice and quick. There we are. That was easy peasy. And these little bits in here. That's just the parrot green I've used there. Now if you remember with these flowers I'm only using 2 colours. So there's my parrot green, which I am using heavy pressure and bringing it almost halfway up, like so. There we go, and I'm using the true green, which was the mid green. I'm just blending that in nicely. The greens seem to go down so well on this paper. I have seen more chat on the paper differences between the US copy and the UK copy of Ivy and Inky. There's been quite a lot of discussion, and it would seem that there is a substantial difference in the paper. So that's just one of the things. If you are over the pond and you're watching this, you may find that you don't need a blender pencil the way I've been using it, or you may find that you have to work a little bit harder with a few more layers in order to get down, you know, similar to what I have here. Alright, so I'm going to go back to my greens now, which again, just to recap, is the parrot green PC1006, true green PC910, and the latest one is indeed light green, and that's PC920. And I'm just going to work my way around this top quarter here up to where our little butterfly is. And I'm going to start with the darkest colour, and I'm just going to put that in exactly the same way as I did down in the bottom part, and decide where I'm having my darker areas. And again, when I'm starting from that base point, I am pressing really hard at the base and then lightening up as I continue on up the vine. I think this it's quite nice to have the freedom in sections like this to decide for yourself, you know, where you're going to want these darker spots. Because I think a lot of the time when we do pictures like this, we feel like we should be colouring something a certain way, or it you know, certain sections should look a certain way. So having this sort of, you know, a little sort of flight of fancy is quite nice. And again, that's just one of the joys of colouring. I do find it a lot less restrictive than drawing, because when I'm drawing I feel like things have to be, I am certainly not an abstract sketcher, that is for sure, so I try and make things the way they should look, you know, logically. Whereas with colouring sometimes I'm like, do you know what, I'm just going to do that just because I can. And it's quite nice. That's what I like about it. I'll bring this a bit further up in these ones at the corner. One of my subscribers, and forgive me because I can't remember who it was now, I'm terribly sorry that I've forgotten who it was, but one of my subscribers was asking if I had a Facebook page, to which I replied no. It's something I have given some thought to, but with the general state of Facebook as it is currently, I am on Facebook and on a personal level, and I belong to quite a few different colouring groups. With the state of Facebook, there's been a lot, you know, there's been a lot of media attention, and there's been a lot of things going on with Facebook, and I just feel that having a Facebook group isn't something that is going to be beneficial right now. People are leaving Facebook in droves for various reasons, but one of the main problems that we've seen, and Claire Eady, whose YouTube channel is Colour with Claire, I'm sure some of you are familiar with her, she has actually been banned on several occasions for posting multiple times on Facebook, and she's not doing it for profit. She's just letting people know about things going on in the colouring community, and Facebook have banned her for absolutely ridiculous reasons, and sometimes she's not even found out the reasons. And it's things like that that really put me off having a Facebook group. Plus as well, it is a lot of work. You need to have moderators, you need to have admins, and I don't have time. I'm sorry to say that I just don't have time to do it all, and if I did do something like that, it would either fall by the wayside or it would just get out of hand, and I really can't, I just can't devote the time to it, as well as doing 2 videos a week, plus all the squilling and one other things that I do, you know, for work and, you know, at home here on the farm and things. So for the time being, especially with the number of subscribers that we have, it's not something that I'm considering at this particular time. If you do have some artwork, or you are following along with these colouring pages and you want to share it, you can post them to Instagram and use the Colour Cave hashtag, which I'll leave down in the description for you, because what I have done is I have followed that hashtag on Instagram, and it means I can see anything that's been tagged in it. So if you would like to share your work with me and show me what you've done, and show some of the other people that subscribe to the channel too, that is the best way to do it if you have an Instagram account. Okay, getting on with these now. I don't really know what to do with this one in behind here. I'm kind of like, and I seem to have lost a pencil somewhere. Where's it? Oh, there it is. There it is. Found it. Found it. I think I'm going to keep this a little bit darker, and then maybe missed a bit, and outline it with this darker colour, just to give me some sort of differentiation between the leaf that's in front and this little curly bit that's behind. Just put a little bit of that parrot green in there. And that's really just to give the definition and the contrast between the two. It's not a major stalling point, but it's just one of those little things, those little details that can make the difference to the overall picture, which is what we're all about. Seem to be very crumbly today. My pencils are crumbly. So that's just the light green, and I'll join that on with my mid green, which is the true green. Just join that up there. The same up here. Just get that down. I really like the parrot green. It's one of my favourite colours in the Prismacolor set. Green is my favourite colour overall. Most of my colour palettes in my house are green, and my wedding theme is green. So yeah, I like green. And I love all that's one of my favourite things when you get a new set of pencils. That's one of the first things I do is if I buy a set of pencils or paints or anything for that matter, the first thing I do is look at all the greens to see what they're like and pick out my favourites. I did the same as well when I got my first set of Copic markers. I got really excited about the greens, and Mr. Jem was laughing at me. And he said, why am I not surprised? Because I had a big sheet of plain paper in front of me, and I was, just scribbling away and, like swatching out all the colours. And he says, oh, why am I not surprised you've started with green? I was like, of course I've started with green. Little pointy bits that are heading into my leaves, I'm just going over that with the light green, and I'm going over the parrot green that I've already put down at the outer edge, and I'm just pulling it in to the centre of the leaf. And just leaving a little bit of white at the tip of these leaves as well. Well, that's pretty good. Now I think in this section here I'm going to use this mid green, just join these two parts up. These leaves here I'm going back to my excuse me, back to my 3 pencil gradient, so I'm going to try and squish in the parrot green at the bottom. Just do both of them together like that, and then into the mid green, and then just a tiny bit of the light green at the very tip. Just smooth that out a little bit. Oh, throwing things away again. Getting really clumsy. Get some of these darker areas done again. I can hear, although I'm in the cave, the door is open, and I can hear some sort of bumping and banging about. And I thought it was the little dog, but the little dog's lying in this room and she's sleeping. So working collie Jock is away with Mr. Jem to go and do some sheep work, so I have no idea what that noise was. It hasn't, I can't hear it banging again, so I don't know, maybe it was just the washing machine clattering and clunking away. That's quite possible. That's one of the things about living in a rural area. Your water supply is not always mains water. We are on mains water here, just because the end of the farm road leads on to a main road. But the water pressure and various other things can be questionable at times, and I do find that sometimes both the dishwasher and the washing machine sort of clunk and clang a wee bit. It's almost as if they're sort of objecting to having to deal with what you're asking it to do. That's one of the many joys of living in a rural area. I do miss at our old farm we were on spring water. You know, it was a private water source, and the water was just absolutely amazing. And when we moved here and we went on to mains water, one of the first things that struck me, and I noticed it straight away, was when I ran the cold tap, the smell of chlorine, because obviously mains water has been treated. The smell of chlorine that came off the water was so strong, and it's taken me such a long time to get used to it. And I actually won't drink tap water. I won't drink it out of the mains. If I'm looking for drinking water, I will use bottled water. But if I'm boiling it for a cup of tea, and as you all know, I drink quite a lot of tea, I'm quite happy to use it, but I just can't drink it because it tastes awful. The downside to being on spring water is that in the winter, if you have a lot of wet and bad weather, which we frequently do here, it goes a rather attractive shade of muddy brown. Now, in terms of drinking water, it's not a problem because we have filters on our under our sinks, so the water is being filtered before it comes out the tap. But generally speaking, in most buildings, you'll find that that's not the case in the bathroom. And in the winter, sometimes you can run a bath and it's a slightly sort of muddy colour, and you think, maybe I'll be cleaner if I don't go for a bath. But it's just one of those things, and again, you get used to it quite quickly. And I actually prefer spring water than the mains water, but it just depends where you are and what you're, how close to the sort of the available amenities you are. Most of us have private gas supplies. It's usually, or oil, so there's kind of quite a lot to think about, and especially if you're used to living in a built up area, it's things that you don't think about, but yeah, we're used to it and we know what's what. But yeah, the water can be interesting. At one point we had just again, it was actually because of the weather, but we ended up having to put cows in the field where the water supply ran through, where the spring ran down from the, up the top of the hill. And that was an interesting experience, because obviously the cows are, not only are they drinking out it, but they're doing other things in it too. And the water was coming through and it was a sort of really dark brown colour. I said to Mr. Jem, I was like, we're going to have to move those cows out there. This is not sanitary. It was actually quite funny. So I know some people will be absolutely disgusted by that, so I'm really sorry if that's offended you, but yeah, it's just a different way of doing things when you're a farmer. But yeah, so needless to say, those cows got moved out of there pretty quick. There we go. Okay, now so we're back to our pinky colours. My blush pink and my process red. I'm just making sure that this is in shot. And exactly the same as before. Oh, I could really do without. Oh, the clunking was the washing machine. I can hear it now. Okay, I'm glad I've sorted that out. A bit of a sharpen, there we go. And just heavy, lighten up, little circular motions. It's a nice colour in here. I quite like, I'm not really into pinky colours, but I like this process red. It's a nice colour. I would be tempted to say it's more fuchsia. I suppose that point's up for debate, isn't it? But yeah, I like it. There we go. I think I'll do the rest of the inside of these leaves first and then I'll go back over with my blender and just do them all one after the other. This is quite a small leaf in here, but we'll see what we can do. I'd love to hear what your favourite colours are in your Prismacolor set. I actually think that I like most of them. Obviously the greens tend to be my favourite just because I like the colour green. But say for example that Process Red, it's a colour I really like, and I'm not really into pinks. So go on, leave a note in the comments. Go and leave a comment for me and tell me what your favourite colour is. I'd like to hear. Do you know what else I also really like in this Prismacolor set? I really like the French greys. They're almost, you know, browny greys. They do have a hint of brown in them, and they're so versatile. I really like them, and I find that I use them more than the other greys. And there'll be times where I am maybe colouring a picture or drawing something and I'm perhaps using my polychromos, and rather than using the greys and the polychromos, I'll switch back over and use the French greys just because of the, you know, the sort of different types of, you know, the different hue that it creates. I find them really handy, and I think that was definitely a good move on the part of Prismacolor. I'm not usually that complimentary about Prismacolor. Even though I do use their pencils a lot. I think we'll have a dark edge down this side on this fold again. Get that down in there too. Here's a nice big juicy leaf. We've got lots of room for manoeuvre on this one. So really when I'm filling these in, I think the main thing is to go back in with the Process Red. Once you've sort of blended it out a bit with the blush pink, is to go back in this outer edge and just go back over it with the Process Red, and that's going to give you the, you know, the vibrancy of that colour without really affecting the blend, if you like. Because when you go over the top of it with this blush pink, it is dulling it down. Prismacolor pencils are quite opaque, so it is, you know, it is going to affect the darker colour that's underneath. But as long as you're not pressing really hard with your blush pink, you'll be able to go back in with that Process Red and just, you know, jazz it up again. Jazz it up. And that way you're not losing out in any of the vibrancy of the colour, which again is one of the reasons that Prismacolors are so good. Get really vibrant colours without a huge amount of work. This one's a bit tighter in here. I'll just go. The last little bit of blush pink in here. Just give this a quick. I'm not actually pressing all that hard with the blender pencil. Normally I will press, you know, press down as hard as I can, but I'm not really, I just don't need to here with these pencils in this particular paper. Wiping off, you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'm hoping you can, there is quite a lot of pink on the tip there, so I'm just taking a scrap bit of paper and twisting it round. That helps to keep the point on your blender pencil as well, but just to take off the excess pigment so that you don't end up in a sort of muddy mess, as it were. Okie dokie, right, there we go. I am happy with that. That is coming along quite nicely, as you can see. I'm quite pleased with that. So I'm going to call it a day there. I hope you've enjoyed this little session that we've had on this page. Now, before the next video, I will finish this side because it is, obviously, it's quite symmetrical. So I'm going to colour in all this side the same way as I've done over here. And in the next video, which will be the last video for this page, we are going to tackle this little butterfly here at the top, and some sort of background colour again, which I'll have to have a think about and decide what I'm doing. So I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for coming and colouring along if that's what you're doing. If you like the video, usual story, please give it a thumbs up. We're still a small channel and we would like to get bigger, and thumbs definitely help with that. If you haven't subscribed, feel free to do that and you will see lots of fab videos. I put a video out twice a week, once on a Monday and once on a Friday, so you've got something to look forward to at the beginning of the week and something for the weekend. Hopefully we'll see you next time in the Colour Cave, guys. Have a good day and we'll see you soon.